In this video, I dig into the research, facts, and comments on a second economic stimulus check. And I believe that by the end of the video, you'll feel a little bit lighter knowing that relief may be on the way. This is the 8 signs that another stimulus check could be arriving soon. And before I get into it, I'd like to point out that videos like these take hours to research. And if you feel this was a quality piece of content by the end, I would appreciate if you hit the like button and maybe even shared it with some friends. All right, let's get on with it. The first major reason why we will likely see another stimulus check is because unemployment numbers show a scary outlook. This is where the headlines are pretty frustrating. Yes, unemployment levels went down slightly from April to May, mostly due to tourism industries opening back up, and new unemployment claims are down slightly, but the overall levels are really nothing to celebrate. In May, unemployment levels were at either 13.3% or 16.3%, depending on whether you count furloughed employees or not within the calculation. But no matter how you calculate it, we haven't seen unemployment levels that high since 1940. I mean, I personally know so many people who have lost their job, and I see comments on my videos every single day from people who have no job and no job to return to, or maybe their business failed and they just don't know what to do next, and all they want is some relief, some good news. Employment has always been a good indicator of economic health, and on that basis, things are not looking great. The less people work, the less people buy, and the more everyone will need an additional stimulus payment to get the economy back on track. This brings us to the next point. Economic recovery could be extremely slow. The International Monetary Fund forecasts that this could be the greatest downturn since the Great Depression. However, I will say, just argue all sides on this point. For every doomsday prediction, there is an equal number of quick recovery predictions. Some economists say that there's going to be a quick V-shaped recovery, others say it's going to be L-shaped, and basically everything in between. The point is, we really don't know what's going to happen, and that honestly feeds more into the scary nature of this situation. Yes, this is a completely new downturn, and given that normally downturns are more institutional, we really don't know what to expect. But let's take a safe bet and land our estimate somewhere in the middle. Even if this is an average recession, we're looking at a long recovery. The average recession lasts a year and a half and decreases GDP by 2%. If this is an average recovery, we can expect to be in a recession until around August of next year. I personally would consider that to be a long, slow recovery. The point I'm trying to make here is the harder hit economically we are, and the longer this all lasts, the odds of another stimulus check increases with each and every day. The next point has to do with the Treasury's comments on another stimulus check. Last week in a press conference, Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin mentioned that the Treasury and the White House are seriously considering another stimulus payment. This is important because the White House's decision on this matter will equate to a push whether the next stimulus payment happens or not. They will help to influence that decision. And then similar to this reason, White House economic advisor Kevin Hassett mentioned a few points on this topic just recently as well. He first mentioned that the odds of another stimulus bill are very, very likely. And by now, we've heard that from multiple sources, and we can say with almost certainty that there's going to be some form of additional bill. The question is, what exactly is going to be on it? And then second, he mentioned that a strong jobs report would determine whether a stimulus check or what exactly is going to be included in this next package. Now, if we go back to unemployment and look at it for what it is, the worst levels in 80 years, it isn't hard to make the argument that this could lead us to not only continued unemployment benefits, but some form of additional stimulus check. From here, another strong sign is President Trump voicing his support for another stimulus payment to the people. Now, a couple months back, he stated his support for a second stimulus, and then that support seemed to dwindle a little bit, and it was kind of replaced with other ideas like tax cuts. However, more recently, his support seemed to be back on a stimulus check. President Trump was quoted recently by saying, "We'll be asking for additional stimulus money, because once we get this, it's going to be far bigger and far better than anything we've ever seen in this country." President Trump's support is no doubt a key to getting this passed, as he will be the final decider of the bill, of course, and his influence will help determine whether the idea of another check is pursued or not. Now, moving back to a more economical sign that we may see another stimulus check, a major concern with stimulus packages just in general is inflation. If I'm giving out all this money, inflation is going to go up and the dollar is going to tank. However, recently, data has shown that the U.S. may actually experience deflation. Deflation is just simply put, is the increase in prices and the decrease in the value of a dollar, where deflation is the decrease in prices and increase in the value of the dollar. And you might be thinking, hey, that doesn't sound so bad. My dollar is worth more. But let me tell you, it is bad. Deflation causes consumers to delay spending because your dollar might be worth more, or that boat you want to buy might be cheaper next month. This delay in spending across an entire economy causes a decline in economic activity, which causes more deflation, which causes a further decline, just over and over again in this vicious cycle of deflation. So why may we be in a deflationary period? Well, the first indicator is the drop on core prices. We had a month-to-month decrease of 0.4%, which doesn't sound like a whole lot, but that's the sharpest drop in over 60 years. And this is because of good old supply and demand. People lose their jobs and stop spending as much, which means there's less demand to buy everyday things, then prices drop, and this is another vicious cycle. You can blame Adam Smith for that one. And then second, when people spend less, this means the velocity and supply of money are down, which leads to even more deflationary pressures. So this economics lesson is great and all, but what does this have to do with stimulus checks? Well, sending out stimulus checks is an excellent way to drive up the velocity of money. As people get this $1,200 payment, they can spend it on anything they want. The supply of money increases because we introduce, about $300 billion into the economy. Things generally get better if we're kind of looking at deflationary pressures. This can actually be good for the economy as a whole. All of this leads us to just one more tally to team stimulus check. All right, moving on to the next reason, which is Rona cases are spiking in areas that are reopening quickly. In areas like Florida, Oklahoma, Oregon, Texas, and Arizona, reports are hitting all-time daily highs of new cases. I live in Arizona, and supposedly we are the #1 hotspot for new cases. And as nice as it is to be #1 in something, I can tell you it's not that great, and the fear is creeping back. When the outbreak first happened, people freaked. I had to have sit-downs with my employees. It was just generally chaos. And then things slowly died down to where you'd rarely hear mention of this C-word epidemic, nor see people in masks out in public anymore. But now people are again refusing to go out, and I can tell you there's just this general tension in the air. I can tell it with my employees. I can just tell it just generally in people that I talk to that they're just starting to get worried again. No matter how you feel about the virus, you have to agree that the fear causing people to not go out and spend money or not go out and go to work will damage the economy even further. This damage will increase the odds of, you guessed it, another stimulus check. The next major sign we could see another stimulus check is the Democratic majority supports it. Last month, the House voted in the HEROES Act, and within that bill was an additional stimulus check. This stimulus check was very similar in size to the first one at $1,200 one-time payment, with only some very slight differences compared to the first one. However, the point I'm driving at is Democrats as a whole want more stimulus for the people, and they overwhelmingly want it. Only 14 Democrats in the House voted against the HEROES Act, while 207 voted for it. That's a 93% favor for Democrats in the House. Yes, I mean, the House is only one piece of the puzzle, and the Senate has a Republican majority, but we're just breaking this down piece by piece to build this argument for more stimulus checks. Finally, this brings us to the last sign that more stimulus could be coming, which is simply voters on both sides want it. A Change research poll showed that 96% of Democratic voters, 74% of independents, and 53% of Republican voters want more direct stimulus payments. So what does this all mean? Well, one could argue that this is a bipartisan issue, or would that be considered a tripartisan issue, including the Independent Party? I don't know. I'm not sure. Either way, voters from all sides favor it. And do you know what legislators like? Votes. Anyone who favors another direct stimulus payment will have an increased favor in the polls because the majority of everyone wants it. It seems to me that would be an obvious choice for legislators to include another direct stimulus check just for job security, if nothing else. They know everyone likes the idea. Then combine this with the fact that another round of direct stimulus payments really isn't that expensive compared to many other programs on the table. At $1,200 a pop, more checks would cost about half the price tag of the Paycheck Protection Program or half the price tag of the Main Street Lending Program. And then take into consideration the fact that research actually shows that direct stimulus checks are one of the best ways to boost an economy. Why is that, you ask? Because they go to people who need money. And people who need money spend the money that they get, putting it back into the economy, slowly making things better and better, churning that economical wheel. Anyways, I hope that this video came to you as a nice piece of news just to give you some hope for the future. I started researching this project, and of course I was already feeling that the odds were in favor of another direct stimulus, but the more research I did, the more I really felt that we will see another payment before all this is over. Anyways, I'd like to thank you for watching, and I hope you have a profitable day.